27 hours in India. Vladimir Putin's visit kicked off with some instantly viral moments. A warm hug between Putin and Prime Minister Modi. A shared 15-minute car ride to the Prime Minister's official residence, which is 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, and extensive talks over their 2-hour-long private dinner. That was day one. Day two, business mode on. The two met at Hyderabad House in New Delhi for the 23rd Annual India-Russia Summit, following a ceremonial welcome and tribute earlier in the day. After the summit talks, they held a press conference and rolled out a batch of new agreements governing and covering migration and mobility, healthcare, medical education, science, food safety cooperation, shipping, fertilizer supply, and more. Here are the key headline takeaways. India and Russia signed a big program targeting long-term economic cooperation, boosting trade, co-production, co-innovation. They reaffirmed a shared goal of $100 billion in bilateral trade by 2030. There's renewed emphasis on joint global action against terror and enhanced defense, technology, energy cooperation. On Ukraine, Prime Minister Modi reiterated India's preference for peace and described India-Russia friendship as a steady and guiding one like a pole star. Meanwhile, Putin pledged uninterrupted fuel supplies to meet India's energy needs.
बिजनेस के लिए सिंप्लीफाइड प्रिडिक्टेबल मैकेनिज्म बनाए जा रहे हैं। भारत और यूरेशियन इकोनॉमिक यूनियन के बीच एफटीए पर चर्चा शुरू हो गई है।
Last year, our bilateral trade turnover has grown by 12%, setting another record. We are up to the task of getting this number to the level of $100 billion. And to reach this important goal, we have harmonized the program of development of Russian-Indian economic cooperation until 2030. We are ready to continue uninterrupted shipments of fuel for the fast-growing Indian economy.
Joining me now to take this forward are Dinakar Peri, Fellow in the Security Studies Program at Carnegie, India; Jayant Dasgupta, former Indian Ambassador at the World Trade Organization; Manjeet Kripalani, Founder and Executive Director, Gateway House; and Tatiana, Romanova, Associate Professor at St. Petersburg State University. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us. Ambassador Dasgupta, trade. This was the big focus of talks between President Putin and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Immediately after hearing the leaders, hearing them at the business forum, what do you think will be some of the immediate outcomes on the trade front, and how our trade, especially our exports to Russia, could increase?
I think a few areas have been already identified by President Putin and Prime Minister Modi. Pharmaceuticals is one of them. Auto components is another. Agricultural products is a third one. Engineering products is a fourth one, apart from auto components and autos. So there are these areas where there could be greater flow of trade. But what I wanted to emphasize, and I have picked it up from Prime Minister Modi's speech, he talked a lot about collaboration between the two countries in terms of sharing of technology, in complementing each other's strengths. For instance, in textiles, India is strong in cotton, but Russia is very strong in the man-made fiber segment because of its large petroleum base. So, Prime Minister Modi also spoke about utilizing the synergy between these two countries and the technology that they have to benefit third world countries like in Africa and other parts of the world. So I think it is a broader message to the rest of the world. It is not about Russia alone, India alone, and making these two countries great again. It is about taking everybody together. And therein lies a broader message to the rest of the world, I think, because trade will take place, it will increase, but the benefits will also be shared with other partners.
Right. Let me go across to Manjeet Kripalani. Manjeet Kripalani, how do you see the optics of the visit? A 15-hour car ride where they spoke and discussed things behind the scenes. 2-hour-long dinner. Today also, the bilateral talks and delegation-level talks spilled over. The press conference began late. Overall, how do you see the optics of the visit?
it makes India look like a very strong country, that it's a country that really doesn't care about global opinion. We are looking to our own interests, much like the US is doing for itself. It looks pretty good. Russia has been a strong friend to India for many years. And I think that if you had to ask anybody, what's your friendship like with the US, really people wouldn't have much to say. But if you ask them, what's your friendship like with Russia, they would say very strong. So the optics are looking pretty good. India is looking strong. And I think we're handling it quite well. Mr. Modi is a master of optics. And so we should trust in his instinct.
Right. Tatiana, if I were to ask you, this was an important visit for President Putin, keeping in mind the kind of pressure he is under from Europe and the United States to come to some sort of peace agreement with Ukraine. Apart from the strong economic component of the visit, we also saw the president launching the Russia Today India channel. What do you think this 23rd Russia-India Annual Summit does in terms of laying the foundation for the next few years in bilateral ties? Prime Minister Modi, in fact, thanked Putin in that press conference earlier for laying the foundation of India-Russia relations 25 years ago.
Well, I think Indian-Russian relations are very old, and they are based on strong traditions. Like, we can go back to the tradition of relations between the Soviet Union and India, when it was important for the Soviet Union to have good relations with the non-allied countries. And then nowadays, today's sort of like period, in fact, goes back to the year 2000, when the strategic foundation for the relations was laid. In present circumstances, Indian-Russian relations for Russia are about, of course, geopolitics, but geopolitics not in terms of making friendship against somebody, but rather geopolitics of making friendship for something. And in this particular case, for multipolarity, for polycentricity, for international relations being more democratic and not just based after Western-designed patterns. But it is, of course, also about economy, and the discussion is about mutual benefits, about
All right.
a variety of logistical sort of like chains that are being created. So it's about broader foundations. It's not only about geopolitics in terms of multipolarity, it's obviously about economic and mutual benefits. And it's about cultural relations, because much has been also said about broader relations and about more information about Russia and India, about India and Russia, about more expertise, about more student exchanges, so about the dialogue that will be
Absolutely
reaffirmed through societal links in a way.
Okay, Tatiana, I'm going to come back to you. Dinakar, welcome to the program. Let me ask you about the defense partnership. We had been told by multiple sources ahead of this visit that don't expect any big deal. And even in the press conference and the joint statements, we just saw a few lines by the leaders in the end where they said that we had good discussions on the military technical cooperation, which will continue. Russia will continue supporting India's needs. India said that we will look at co-production, co-development. What do you think would have actually been discussed behind the scenes realistically? Would it be the BrahMos 2? Would it be Su-57 or the S-500?
Thank you, Parikshit, for having me here, firstly. And so to get into the issue, as you rightly said, the sense was there'll be no one big ticket, defense deal to be signed in the visit. The visit, as we saw, and as you also rightly said, is high on symbolism, optics, sending a message. It's really high on that. And that said, Russia has actually put out a lot of things on the table for India. It has literally offered all its frontline platforms, more S-400s, S-500s, additional lease of Akula-class nuclear attack submarines, and so on and so forth. I mean, literally everything is on the table. But from an operational, practical sense for India, so what fits in? Where is the congruence between the two? post-Opsindur, India is definitely looking for more S-400s. I mean, it's become pivotal how the role played by S-400 and BrahMos in Opsindur, we saw, how really they became game changers as termed by both the Indian Air Force Chief and the Defense Minister. So there is interest in that. And a hypersonic version of the BrahMos is already under development. That's a natural progression. It's already happening. So more S-400s, probably yes, once the current deliveries are completed, because 2 more regiments of the 5 contracted are still pending. So that's a priority right now. And Su-57, as you said. So that's a bit of a debate going on within the Indian Air Force right now. Indian Air Force and the MOD. So that's because the Indian Air Force is in a very precarious situation with respect to its fighter squadrons at the moment. So what do? Do they go for more Rafales or 114 Rafales, or split it between the Rafales and some 5th generation stealth Su-57s? So that's a debate ongoing. Russia has, from its end, offered full license manufacturing in India. That's offer stands, but we have to see the call taken. It's more of an operational and a military necessity. I guess that will cross it in the near future, probably, and the time is approaching. We have to take a call. So that's it. One step ahead. There's also some conversation of more joint projects. So what is it at the moment? We do not know as yet. Probably the joint statement may or may not give any sense, but probably we'll get some clarity in the near future. Another area is shipbuilding. So just one thing, shipbuilding is actually something which is going to go probably in a bigger way, because there is a significant overlap of interest. Russia wants India in the Arctic, in the Far East, because that also offsets Chinese presence there. For India, it's a good source of hydrocarbons, etc. So there is an agreement, understanding already for Russia to train Indian sailors in polar navigation and to assist Indian shipyards in building non-nuclear icebreakers. I'll stop there.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We have received the joint statement from the Ministry of External Affairs. We'll quiz our guests over that in just a bit. I'll request everyone to stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is basically an extension of an agreement we had with TASS since 2014. So it was expiring and we have renewed it. But the significance is that the renewal comes at a time when the world is changing. There'll be no third-party filter changing giving a slant or a different inflection to a story from India.
Welcome back. You're watching our special broadcast on the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. We still have with us Dinakar Peri of Carnegie India, Jayant Dasgupta, former Indian ambassador at the WTO, Manjeet Kripalani, Gateway House. Manjeet Kripalani, if I can ask you about the 2 agreements, one on migration and mobility of skilled professionals, and secondly, the Prime Minister's announcements on 30-day e-tourist visas for Russian nationals. How important are they in the current context?
The labor is, the mobility agreement is particularly important because Russia, as you know, a lot of their boys have gone up to the front. They used to have a lot of labor from the Uzbekistan, etc., Central Asia. That is not enough because Russia has to rebuild itself. Its defense factories have to go on. So our labor is really important. I think Mr. Modi had said in his statement that he is going to skill the labor and make them Russia ready, teach them the language. This is critical. We can't send enough of our labor to Russia. I mean, we can accommodate even up to 2 lakh of our young people going there. I have seen the labor travel to Russia. They prefer going to Russia rather than going to the Middle East because they say in Russia they're treated as equals. So you can see on the flights on Aeroflot from Delhi to Moscow, the first timers who go so is sort of a little bit rough, and they come back, and the second timers are much more polished. It's a very different game from sending our labor to the Gulf. So I think this is the great way for them to also learn another language and to be in a European environment. And on the other, you talked about the e-visitors. Why not? We already have so many flights coming in from Russia, so many visitors who are all over the place. They're in Odisha, they're in Goa, they're everywhere. and they're coming on special flights, so why not? Actually, we need to send more of our people also to visit Moscow.
All right. Let me also get in Jayant Dasgupta. Ambassador Dasgupta, when it comes to fertilizers, there was an agreement signed on fertilizers. Secondly, both sides decided to increase production of urea. How important do you think this is?
This is extremely important because urea basically is a byproduct of the petroleum industry. And since the Russians have a lot of the feedstock, so their prices are globally competitive. And of course, it could be negotiated. So it would be a very steady source of supply for India, which requires a lot of urea. It doesn't produce enough in the country, and it does import a lot. So that would be a very good, I think, avenue to explore. And to get into this kind of an agreement for specific purposes, I think will bode well. This is going to be a good thing.
Okay. My final question to Dinakar Peri. Dinakar, when it comes to the logistics agreement, the military logistics pact that has now been ratified, it is an older deal, but which has been ratified now. How important and significant is this, and how would you compare it to the LEMOA that we have with US?
So the RELOS, as it's called, the Russian version is called, it's been actually there, as you said, for many years now. I mean, for some reason or the other, it somehow did not get, see the conclusion. So now we have it. So what does it mean? It's more of an administrative arrangement. It simplifies. I mean, for example, India and Russia have actually been doing joint exercise for a very long time now, without an agreement. So this kind of simplifies that, improves the ease of, commonalities of, just simple things like fuel exchanges, exchanging personnel, where required. It removes redundancies in the operation. One. Two, what is its significance for India? For India, this gives access to Russian military facilities in the Arctic. In the sense, for operational turnaround, again, for replenishment, for visits, exchanges. And why is that important? Because India is now investing in the Arctic. The earlier point I mentioned about the Arctic and shipbuilding cooperation, this in a way kind of juxtaposes into that in the larger sense. So this is significant in that. And for the Indian military, this is a series of these agreements which enable expanding their footprint. They reduce operational turnaround, ease of maneuver operation. You don't have to come back to Indian soil for everything. You can do it far away.
All right. We've run out of time, but thank you very much, Dinakar, Ambassador Dasgupta, Manjeet, Kripalani and Tatiana for being with us. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Center. More updates when we return.